as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization.
For decades, the world has admired Bruce Lee as a figure of absolute control, a man whose outward calm seemed unshakable, a philosopher warrior whose mastery extended beyond martial arts into the very nature of life itself. His speed, precision, and profound insights into discipline and self-awareness have inspired generations of fans, martial artists, and thinkers alike. On screen, he was flawless, a calm, composed figure whose movements carried an almost supernatural elegance. To the public, Bruce Lee appeared untouchable, the embodiment of discipline, a person whose inner fire never burned beyond control. His legendary presence left little room for the ordinary struggles, the frustrations, and the moments of human emotion that we all experience. Yet, as his daughter Shannon Lee has revealed, this public perception only tells part of the story. Behind the image of the serene and almost mythic warrior, there was a man with real, sometimes intense emotions, including a temper that could flare quickly and unexpectedly. Shannon Lee's account shattered the popular myth of a perfectly calm Bruce Lee. She does not seek to diminish his legacy or paint him in a negative light. Rather, she offers perspective grounded in truth and intimacy, a glimpse into humanity of a man the world has often idealized. She speaks candidly of the moments when her father's anger startled those around him, moments that left an indelible impression on family and friends alike. Understanding Bruce Lee's temper does not diminish the lessons he left behind. Instead, it highlights one of the key elements of his philosophy: how he transformed moments of emotional intensity into opportunities for growth, self-reflection, and personal development. Anger, for Bruce Lee, was never merely a reaction. It was a signal, a tool for introspection, and a reminder of the standards he held for himself and others. Shannon Lee emphasizes that the true significance of these moments lies not in the anger itself, but in what came immediately afterward: reflection, acknowledgement, and deliberate effort to reset and grow. This process reflects a rare kind of emotional intelligence, one that blends discipline with self-awareness in a way few have ever achieved. From the earliest accounts of those who knew him, even as a child and young man in Hong Kong, Bruce Lee's temper was evident. Friends, classmates, and early training partners often described him as confident, quick-witted, and impatient, a combination that made him a formidable presence both in life and in martial arts. These observations, recorded by those who shared his daily life long before the world knew his name, paint a picture of a young man deeply alive to the challenges and injustices of the environment around him. Bruce's responses were immediate, sometimes sharp, but they were never arbitrary. They were formed within the rough, often confrontational streets of 1940s and 1950s Hong Kong, where disputes were frequently settled through action rather than words, and quick thinking was often a matter of survival. Yet as his fame grew, as his career progressed from the local arenas of Hong Kong to the global stage, Bruce Lee's personal understanding of his temper evolved. He learned not to suppress it entirely, nor to deny its existence, but to examine it rigorously, to understand its triggers, and to convert its energy into constructive outcomes. The man who might once have responded impulsively now approaches emotions with intention, reflection, and discipline, a practice he referred to as self-peeling, a metaphor for stripping away layers of ego and reaction to reveal clarity and inner control. In doing so, he transformed what might have been destructive into a guiding force for mastery, teaching, and life. This introduction is not simply a recounting of anecdotal tales. It is a lens into understanding Bruce Lee as a whole person, someone whose brilliance was inseparable from his humanity. His temper, once seen as a flaw or contradiction, is now understood as part of the very essence that drove him to excel in every domain of his life. His philosophy, his martial artistry, and his teachings are richer and more profound when we acknowledge the depth of his personal struggles and his relentless pursuit of self-mastery. By opening up about his human imperfections, Shannon Lee allows the world to appreciate a side of Bruce that is rarely discussed. The side of a father, a teacher, a thinker, and a man who did not shy away from confronting his own flaws. In the sections that follow, we will explore the journey of Bruce Lee's temperament from the early years in Hong Kong, through his rise to global stardom, to the philosophical methods he developed to understand himself, We will look at specific incidents that illustrate both his fiery intensity and his remarkable ability to reset, reflect, and grow. And we will hear, in Shannon Lee's own words, how these experiences shaped not only her father's life, but the enduring legacy he left for the world. Before Bruce Lee became an international icon, before the world marveled at his unmatched martial arts skills or revered his philosophical wisdom, he was a young man growing up in the vibrant and often challenging streets of Hong Kong. To those who knew him personally during these formative years, friends, classmates, early training partners, the first thing that stood out was his intensity. Bruce Lee had a temper. This was not a rumor propagated by tabloids or later sensationalized biographies. It came directly from people who lived alongside him, who saw him in ordinary moments, and who experienced firsthand the fiery spark that would later fuel his legendary presence. Bruce's early environment played a significant role in shaping his personality. The Hong Kong of the 1940s and 1950s was a bustling, competitive, and sometimes confrontational place. Neighborhoods were tightly knit, but territorial disputes, schoolyard skirmishes, and occasional street fights were common, especially among young men striving to establish themselves. In such a context, being quick to respond both verbally and physically was not merely a personality trait. It was often a necessity. Bruce grew up in this world, where confidence, decisiveness, and readiness to defend oneself were essential for survival. These early challenges naturally honed a temper that was reactive, alert, and sharp. Friends and early acquaintances consistently described him as intelligent, quick-thinking, and highly confident, but also impatient. Small slights, misunderstandings, or challenges could ignite a strong reaction, one that was immediate but not necessarily destructive. He was not someone who lashed out without reason. Rather, his anger was a measure of his engagement with the world around him. A challenge to his abilities, his understanding, or his principles could provoke a flash of frustration, and Bruce often responded with directness and intensity. This tendency was visible even in his earliest martial arts training. Students and partners noticed that when a technique was performed incorrectly, he would react sharply, not to humiliate, but to convey the seriousness of learning and the importance of precision. His attention to detail was unwavering, and his expectations extended not only to himself, but to those he trained with. Even as a child actor in Hong Kong films, Bruce's fiery temperament was apparent to those on set. Directors, co-stars, and crew members recalled a young man who was bright and talented, but who did not hide his dissatisfaction when progress was slow or when situations became disorganized. His reactions were immediate, a reflection of the high standards he had set for himself, and they were always coupled with drive to correct and improve. These early experiences reveal an essential aspect of Bruce Lee's personality. His temper was closely tied to his dedication, his ambition, and his refusal to accept mediocrity, whether in himself or others. Classmates and friends often recalled specific incidents that highlighted his temper in everyday situations. In school, a teasing comment or perceived insult could prompt Bruce to respond quickly and assertively, a reflection of his confidence and unwillingness to be disrespected. Yet, these reactions were not mindless or reckless. They were measured, grounded in his understanding of his own strength and abilities. In fact, Bruce often used these moments as opportunities to assert boundaries and demonstrate respect for himself and for the rules he believed were essential in any environment, whether a classroom, training hall, or neighborhood street. It is also important to recognize that Bruce's temper, while visible, was never chaotic. Those closest to him consistently describe a pattern, a rapid response followed by reflection and adjustment. He was sharp, but he was also self-aware, even in his youth. This balance between intensity and introspection would later become a defining feature of his character and philosophy. In many ways, his early temper foreshadowed the remarkable ability he would develop to transform emotional energy into focus, discipline, and creative power. The seeds of self-mastery were already present in these youthful reactions, hinting at the man he would become. Shannon Lee, reflecting on her father's early years, confirms these accounts. She describes him as a person whose humanity included both brilliance and intensity, someone who could react strongly when provoked, but who also possessed the insight to understand and regulate those reactions. Her acknowledgement underscores a critical truth. Bruce Lee's anger was not a flaw to be hidden or denied. It was a real part of who he was, and it contributed to his relentless pursuit of excellence. by facing his temper directly. Even in his formative years, Bruce developed a foundation for the extraordinary self-awareness that would define his later life. The early environment, combined with his innate intelligence and drive, created a complex personality. Bruce Lee was confident but not arrogant, assertive but not reckless, intense but capable of reflection. These traits allowed him to navigate a world that demanded both resilience and skill, and they laid the groundwork for philosophy he would later teach to the world. Understanding this early temperament is essential to understanding the man behind the legend, a man whose anger was real, but whose mastery over would eventually become part of his enduring legacy. In summary, Bruce Lee's early years reveal a young man deeply attuned to the challenges and expectations of his environment. His temper, sharp and immediate, was a reflection of his engagement with the world, his high standards, and his drive to excel. Far from being a liability, it was an element of his character that, when understood and managed, became a source of power, discipline, and insight. These formative experiences set the stage for a lifetime of self-discovery, philosophical inquiry, and a deliberate transformation of human potential, an ongoing journey that Shannon Lee helps illuminate for us today. The public image versus the man himself. As Bruce Lee's career progressed, a clear public image began to form around him, a mythic portrayal of a man who seemed nearly superhuman in his composure. On screen, Bruce embodied a sense of calm that appeared absolute. Whether in The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, or later classics, his characters moved with precision, control, and a remarkable emotional clarity. Even when his characters expressed anger, it was carefully contained, controlled, and purposeful, surfacing only at the precise moment to maximize impact. This image captivated audiences worldwide. Bruce Lee came to symbolize a disciplined warrior who never faltered, the philosopher warrior whose emotions were always mastered, and whose mind and body operated in perfect harmony. Yet, the reality behind the screen was more nuanced. Bruce Lee, like all human beings, had emotions, strong, immediate, and at times fiery. Unlike the carefully choreographed expressions of his on-screen characters, his private reactions were genuine, sometimes intense, but always connected to his principles and expectations. Those closest to him, family, friends, and students, saw a side of Bruce Lee that the general public rarely witnessed. This was not a man lacking control or integrity. It was a man deeply invested in the quality of his work, the people around him, and the standards he held himself to. When those standards were not met, frustration could surface quickly, and his temper, while real, was always purposeful. Bruce himself was aware of this duality. In an interview highlighted by Essentially Sports, he was asked whether he was as calm in real life as his on-screen personas. Instead of maintaining the myth, Bruce responded honestly, saying, "I do have a bad temper and a violent temper." The simplicity of the statement revealed a rare candidness. He did not shy away from acknowledging a part of himself that did not fit the public ideal. He understood his anger, he recognized it, and he approached it not with denial but with honesty and reflection. Those who trained with Bruce during his early teaching years corroborated this reality. Students from his schools in Seattle, Oakland, and later Los Angeles recalled moments when his intensity became apparent. If a drill was performed incorrectly, if a movement lacked precision, his frustration might show through in his tone, expression, or instruction. Yet, even in those moments, his focus was never on punishment. It was on refinement, on teaching, on demanding the best possible performance from both himself and his students. As one student explained, everything about Bruce was intense, his attention, his expectations, and sometimes his frustration. It wasn't rage. It wasn't instability. It was the same relentless focus that defined his training, his philosophy, and his approach to life applied to everything he touched. This intensity was not limited to martial arts. Shannon Lee has emphasized that her father held himself to extraordinarily high standards in every aspect of life. Those expectations naturally extended to the people around him. When others failed to meet them, even unintentionally, Bruce's reactions could be sharp but always measured. Unlike stereotypes of uncontrolled temper, these moments were never chaotic. They were the product of a man who valued discipline, mastery, and respect above all else. The public, seeing only the calm figure on screen, rarely had the opportunity to witness this complexity. To most, Bruce Lee seemed flawless. To those who knew him personally, he was human, brilliant, demanding, and intensely passionate. One pivotal moment that highlighted this duality occurred during a martial arts demonstration in San Francisco in 1964. Bruce was demonstrating what would later be known as the one-inch punch, a technique designed to showcase how alignment, speed, and structure could generate extraordinary force from minimal distance. The volunteers' reaction, however, did not meet Bruce's expectations. Some in the audience laughed, misinterpreting the demonstration or underestimating its subtle power. Witnesses observed Bruce's jaw tighten, his posture stiffen, and his tone sharpen. It was a clear moment of visible frustration, but it was neither reckless nor prolonged. Bruce asked for another volunteer, his voice firm but controlled. The intensity of the moment revealed his passion, his commitment, and the seriousness with which he approached his craft. Yet immediately afterward, he regained composure, continued the demonstration flawlessly, and concluded the event without further incident. Observers later noted that Bruce even engaged in light conversation, showing that the anger was temporary, purposeful, and quickly replaced with calm. This incident reflected a broader pattern in Bruce Lee's life. A rapid emotional response followed by deliberate reflection. His temper was real, but it was not destructive. It was an element of intensity channeled through self-awareness, rather than an uncontrolled force. Shannon Lee explains this pattern clearly. Her father's emotional responses were never the defining aspect of the situation. What mattered most was how he addressed them immediately afterward, by recognizing the reaction, resetting, and acting with intention. This approach transformed a moment of anger into tools for growth, both for himself and for those around him. Bruce's ability to navigate this duality became increasingly significant as his fame grew. By the early 1970s, he was no longer simply a martial artist or actor. He was a global symbol. Fans interpreted his calm, measured demeanor on screen as an innate personality trait. Behind the camera, however, he continued to engage deeply with his emotions, with precision and with awareness. Colleagues on film sets noted that he was meticulous, demanding, and intensely focused, and that his moments of frustration were never arbitrary. They were tied to standards, discipline, and the pursuit of excellence. At home, his family observed the same patterns. A man capable of sharp reactions, but equally capable of rapid self-correction, reflection, and adaptation. His temper, visible to some, was always contained within a framework of self-discipline. This duality, the composed public figure versus the intensely focused private man, helps explain why Bruce Lee has remained such a compelling figure decades after his passing. He was not a superhero born without flaws. He was a human being who faced his own emotions, worked with them consciously, and transformed them into a driving force for growth. Understanding this distinction is key to understanding both the man and the philosophy he left behind. The calmness admired by millions was not an innate quality. It was a result of deliberate effort, self-examination, and the application of discipline to one's own temperament. In essence, Bruce Lee's public image was a product of mastery and intent, while his private life revealed the human challenges behind that mastery. This duality does not diminish his accomplishments. It enriches them, showing that greatness is not the absence of struggle, but the conscious transformation of it. As Shannon Lee later emphasized, her father's temper and his capacity for reflection were inseparable. The controlled demeanor celebrated by the world was a result of intentional cultivation, not a natural gift, a lesson as profound as any martial arts technique or philosophical insight he shared. Public outbursts and lessons in self-control. Bruce Lee's public image often suggests a man of unshakable calm, yet those closest to him knew that moments of intense emotion were not uncommon. These instances, far from undermining his discipline, were integral to understanding his approach to life, learning, and personal growth. Observing these outbursts provides a window into how Bruce managed his temper and transformed raw emotion into deliberate self-awareness, a lesson his daughter Shannon Lee later highlighted. One of the most well-documented moments occurred during a martial arts demonstration in San Francisco in 1964. Bruce Lee was presenting what would become one of his signature techniques, the one-inch punch. This punch, a feat of extraordinary precision and power generated from minimal distance, required both technical mastery and disciplined execution. Bruce had performed the technique countless times in private training, expecting reactions of amazement and respect from volunteers. Yet on this occasion, the response was less dramatic. A volunteer did not recoil as anticipated, and some in the audience laughed. For Bruce, this laughter was not just noise. It was a direct challenge to the integrity of the demonstration and the years of effort he had invested in perfecting the technique. Witnesses described a clear moment of tension. Bruce's jaw tightened, his posture stiffened, and his voice became firm. He requested another volunteer with a noticeably sharper tone, reflecting both his focus and his frustration. Yet crucially, this outburst was not uncontrolled. Bruce did not lash out physically or verbally beyond what the moment required. He regained composure almost immediately, proceeded flawlessly with the demonstration, and concluded the event without further incident. He even engaged in light conversation afterward, a subtle but important indication that his momentary anger had been contained, assessed, and redirected. The significance of this incident lies not in the anger itself, but in how Bruce processed it. A rapid emotional reaction followed by intentional reflection and continuation. Another illustrative episode occurred in 1971 on a Los Angeles freeway. Bruce was driving with his mother, Grace, and his sister, Phoebe, shortly after finishing work on Long Street. A driver behind him began tailgating aggressively and then made a disrespectful gesture. Witnesses recount that Bruce initially reacted with intensity. He accelerated, signaled the driver to pull over, and confronted him physically by pulling him from the car. In the heat of the moment, he was seconds away from striking the man. However, the intervention of his family changed the course of the encounter. Bruce stepped back, addressed the shaken driver calmly, and remarked, "That's my mother and sister. They just saved your life." On the way home, the tension dissolved into shared laughter as he explained the situation to Phoebe, who had just arrived from Hong Kong and did not yet grasp the cultural implications of the gesture. These two examples encapsulate the pattern Shannon Lee later described. Bruce's anger was real, immediate, and sometimes intense, but was always followed by reflection, correction, and adaptation. The lessons here extend beyond martial arts or personal confrontation. They demonstrate an early and profound understanding of emotional intelligence, a recognition that anger is a signal, not a permanent state. Bruce Lee's story teaches us an invaluable lesson. Greatness is not about being flawless. It's about understanding yourself, facing your challenges, and striving to grow every single day. His temper, once seen as a weakness, became a tool for self-discovery, discipline, and personal mastery. We all have our own fires to manage, but Bruce's life reminds us that with awareness, reflection, and determination, we can transform our challenges into strengths. So, whether you're training, learning, or simply navigating life's hurdles, remember to embrace your intensity, examine your reactions, and keep pushing forward. Just like Bruce did, your own journey of growth starts with understanding yourself, one step at a time.